Most people think they understand Akeno. Everyone knows her as the sadistic step-on-me mummy character, when in reality, that version of Akeno is a very small part of who she actually is. While I love Race, I can't deny that Akeno just has a more interesting story in general. And like most things in Highschool DxD, once you start digging a bit further, the fan service slowly fades, and you're left with trauma, identity conflict, and one of the most tragically quiet characters in the series. Akeno was the child that learned to hate the sky. We don't know much about Akeno's childhood, but we do know this. Akeno is the daughter of Baraqiuel, a high-ranking fallen angel. Her mother was human, and she was killed by fallen angels due to this fact. This alone places Akeno in a position no child should really be in, born between two worlds that were never meant to coexist, let alone love one another per se. Imagine being a child realizing that the group responsible for your mother's death is also the group you're meant to belong to. While Baraqiuel didn't outwardly request or ask for the death of Akeno's mother, he was absent when she was murdered, and by proxy, despite Akeno's mother loving him, the relationship led to her death. And that absence is important, not because it makes Baraqiuel an evil character, but Akeno still holds it against him, and it also made her as strong as she is today. So regardless if Baraqiuel had a hand in her death, which we know he didn't at this point, the fact he wasn't there, still in Akeno's eyes, especially as a child, makes that distinction not matter. He failed and that's all that counts. To a child, power and responsibility are pretty much the same thing. To a child, power and responsibility are the same thing. If you could have stopped it, and you didn't, then the outcome just kind of feels intentional either way in Akeno's eyes. From that point on, both with her fallen angel's father's failure and her mother being killed by his people, that is when Akeno rejected the fallen angel side of herself, and began to hate fallen angels, not just as enemies but as a general concept, a symbol of everything that was taken from her, and that's where Akeno's story really begins. She hates what fallen angels represent: murder, lies, betrayal, a system that claimed righteousness while spilling innocent blood, and the faction that produced order, yet destroyed everything she valued close, because no matter how much she rejects them, their power still lives inside of her. She is half fallen angel. It's in her blood, it's in her appearance, her wings, and it's in the lightning she refuses to call her own. Akeno suppresses her fallen angel side apparently because of her past. Not because she can't use them, she very much can, but because using them would mean accepting what she is, which she quietly battles without throughout the anime. And it's not a very front-facing issue until later on. That fact is still looming over her head. After her mother's death, we don't really know much about Akeno's uprising, but if I had to speculate, I assume she was still hidden in among humans. After all, from what we see in the anime, her social skills are quite well developed, which if she was kept in isolation by herself, probably wouldn't be so developed and outgoing. So I assumed Akeno was kept under surveillance, more so watched than actually raised, simply monitored until she hit her breaking point. She was starving, had nowhere to go, barely any shelter except a tree in the woods, and that's when Ray stepped in, with the words, "You can die alone or live for me." When we meet Akeno in the present, she looks nothing like a traumatized child. She's confident, playful, even teasing, and most people stop there thinking that is her entire character, which fits her role as queen pretty well in Race's peerage. After her mother's death, Akeno developed a personality type of pure dominance. That sadistic mummy character was born from the feeling of how helpless she felt after her mother's death, and after being turned to a devil, she decided not to let something like that happen again. It's important to understand that this isn't really cruelty for the sake of cruelty's sake. It's for adaptation, to live rather than just survive. Akeno didn't become dominant because she enjoys pure control. She's not Makima or something like that. She became dominant because control was taken from her when it mattered most. And once you grow up powerless, you either kind of just break, or you make sure it never happens again. Never feel that way again. Akeno only expresses dominance in places where she absolutely has authority. Battle, socializing, flirting. Because once she had none of that, these are environments she can fully dictate, where she sets the rules. Where nothing happens unless she says so, or Ray says so, but you know. Now, instead of being the one in pain, with Akeno's dominant personality type, now she gets to decide when it happens. Hence why she makes herself come off as this scurry sadist type. Pain for Akeno stops being something inflicted on her, and rather becomes something she can control. And that's the massive difference between feeling confident and between living and surviving. And this is where Race comes in and changes everything. Race didn't ask Akeno to be better. In fact, as I mentioned in Race's video, she recruited the broken ones on purpose. The ones with no future, didn't know what to do with their life, and made a lovable but slightly dysfunctional family out of them. Race didn't try to fix Akeno. Her pure companionship alone, in my eyes, was enough to just gradually help her out of her broken state. With Reyes, Akeno could be what she wanted to. becoming a devil only strengthening her ability, turning her into the Empress of Lightning. As a devil, Akeno also isn't weakened, her lightning doesn't disappear. If anything, she gets a massive boost. From level 1 to at least 50, she gets a massive buff. And for the first time, this power she hated so much isn't tied to shame or rejection. Now it's hers, not Baraqiuel's. Reyes simply asked her to stay, and that was enough. For someone like Akeno, someone who lost everything because someone wasn't there, that request meant a lot. She stays not because she's owned or anything. It's Akeno, she wouldn't let that happen. But because she simply chose to. Because Reyes asked her when she needed it. When she finally confronts her brother Baraqiuel, it's not some big dramatic anime showdown, flashy fights or anything. No grand speeches, no anime victory poses. It's uncomfortable, which you wouldn't really expect from Highschool DXD, to be honest. The father that wants to help, but understand why his daughter despises him, and doesn't try to fight her on the subject, knowing he failed her. And her mother, consequently. Baraqiuel doesn't try and demand forgiveness. He's not evil, per se. He knows what he did. He simply accepts that his absence caused damage that can't be undone. And it forces Akeno to face the truth. She's been avoiding her entire life. Her fallen angel power isn't evil. They're just part of her. They weren't the cause for her mother's death, nor proof of corruption. They're just part of her. Whether she accepts them or not, they're Akeno. Finally accepting her lightning is her accepting that her life, her entire existence, is not just one big contradiction between two worlds that never should have crossed paths. That she can be born from tragedy without it becoming her entire being. Unlike Kiba, even once Akeno's arc comes to a conclusion, comes full circle, she continues to grow as a character. As the Lightning Empress, and as Reyes' best friend, and of course trying to get Issei to have an affair with her. Which, honestly, at this point I think she does for fun. If it actually got to that point, if Issei even considered it, I imagine she'd be more upset at Issei for betraying Reyes if anything. And this was special about Akeno. Unlike a lot of anime characters, she doesn't really cling to her trauma as her entire identity. In fact, she barely mentions it. Instead, she builds from it. Her teasing becomes playful instead of defensive. And at the end, when she finally accepts her lightning, she becomes the actual Empress of Lightning. Because as said, she gets a really strong boost from it. Akeno's loyalty to Reyes isn't really even a question at this point. They're each other's right hand, best friends. She could have left a long time if she wanted to, but stayed by Reyes and helped her even build her peerage into what it is today, being the first member she recruited and the first actual true friend she made. Issei, for all his stupidity, actually does something really important for Akeno. He acknowledges every part of her even when she reveals what she is, the dangerous and the broken. And knowing this, he still doesn't ask her to change anything. Her and Issei bond over their meeting with Baraqiuel, their friendship deepening as he meets her father, and finally sees her true self, all without the dommy-mummy barrier act. And I don't really see Akeno ever leaving the peerage. It's her place that she happily accepts. If Akeno has a future in DXD's world, she's proof that fallen angels can be good people. Akeno is everything the average fallen angel is not. She contrasts the usual fallen angel characters, which once she refused to accept herself, but is now using herself to be not letting her fallen angel side take over. That is how the child who hated the sky ended up accepting it and making it part of who she is, using her power rather than her father's. Friendship, companionship, Reyes opening up to people accepting her for who she is. Akeno is one of the characters in DXD with a more compelling backstory. It's also why she's tied for second best girl with Rossweiss. Now, this is my second episode of my lore series in Highschool DXD. Let me know what you think of it. The first one was of Reyes, of course. I'll be doing more of these along my other videos I've planned. I'm planning to do all the main cast and maybe some side characters such as Cyraorg. So stick around if you're interested in that. Anyways, that's Akeno's story, or at least what we know of it so far. See ya.